ओमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। सर्वशास्त्राप्ति पीयूष सर्ववेदैः सत्फल सर्वसिद्धान्त रत्नाद्य सर्वलोकैः तृप्प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कलिद्वान्दोद्यादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानंद पादाय प्रेमवर्षि अक्षराय दे सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तु मे। मत एक बंदो मत संगिन मद्गुणो मन्महादन मत निस्तारक मद्वाक्य मत्तानंद नमोस्तुते। असाधु साधु दादायिन अति नीचोचता कर हा नमुंज कटाक्षिन्मा प्रेम नकृत गंधयो स्फुर। श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय, श्लोकोबाद की जय। Welcome to everybody for the today's session. So we will continue from sloka number 12 of the third chapter of the second canto. Sloka number 12. Jnanam yat apratiनिवृत्त गुणोर्विचक्रम आत्म प्रसाद उदयत्र गुणे ससंगः कैवल्य सम्मत पतस्तु अदभक्ति योगः को निवृत्तो हरिकदासु रदिं न क्रियात्.
Translation: Transcendental knowledge in relation with the Supreme Lord Hari is knowledge resulting in the complete suspension of the waves and whirlpools of the material modes. Such knowledge is self-satisfying due to its being free from material attachment and being transcendental. It is approved by authorities. Who could fail to be attracted? Perfect. According to Bhagavad Gita 10.9, the characteristics of pure devotees are wonderful. The complete functional activities of a pure devotee are always engaged in the service of the Lord, and thus the pure devotees exchange feelings of ecstasy between themselves and relish transcendental bliss. This transcendental bliss is experienced even in the stage of devotional practice, sadhana avastha, if properly undertaken under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. And in the mature stage, the developed transcendental feelings culminates in relation of the particular relationship with the Lord, by which a living entity is originally constituted, up to the relationship of conjugal love with the Lord, which is estimated to be the highest transcendental bliss. Thus, Bhakti Yoga, being the only means of God relation, is called Kaivalya. Srila Jiva Goswami quotes the Vedic version, Eko Narayano Deva Paravranam Param Aste Kaivalya Samgita. In this connection, and establishes that Narayan, the personality of Godhead, is known as Kaivalya, and the means which enables one to approach the Lord is called Kaivalya Pantha, or the only means of attainment of Godhead. This Kaivalya Pantha begins from Shravan, or hearing those topics that relate to the personality of Godhead, and the natural consequence of hearing such Hari Katha is attainment of transcendental knowledge, which causes detachment from all mundane topics, for which a devotee has no taste at all. For a devotee, all mundane activities, social and political, become unattractive, and in the mature state, such a devotee becomes uninterested even in his own body, and what to speak of bodily relatives. In such a state of affairs, one is not agitated by the waves of the material modes. There are different modes of material nature, and all mundane functions in which a common man is very much interested or in which he takes part becomes unattractive for the devotee. This state of affairs is described herein as Pratinivritta Gunormi, and it is possible by Atma Prasad, or complete self-satisfaction, without any material connection. The first-class devotee of the Lord attains this stage by devotional service, but despite his loftiness for the Lord's satisfaction, he may play the voluntary part of a preacher of the Lord's glory and dovetail all into devotional service, even mundane interest, just to give the neophytes a chance to transform mundane interest into transcendental bliss. Srila Rupa Goswami has described this action of pure devotee as Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. Even mundane activities dovetailed with service to the Lord are also calculated to be transcendental or approved Kaivalya affairs. Correct.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thanks. So, Jnanam yat apranivritta gunormi chakram. So here, the nature of the Bhagavata Tattva, knowledge in relation with the Supreme Personality of God's devotional service is explained. So what is the main, what are the main characteristics of devotees? Ananya Bhaktas. Machchitta, Matkada Prana, Bodhayandaha Parasparam, Kadayanda Chamam Nityam, Dushyandicha, Ramandicha. So the devotees of Ananya, the devotees in the path of Ananya Bhakti are always interested in chanting and hearing the name and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the association of devotees. So this transcendental act of hearing and chanting the name and form and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Bhakti Yoga, being the only mode of God realization, is called a Kaivalya. Kaivalya means non-different. Ekatvam. It has the same nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is transcendental, and the path of Sravanam and Kirtanam, which are the only means to understand the Supreme Lord, is also transcendental. Previously, we discussed about the different other methodologies of spiritual realization, Jnana Marka, Karma Marka, broad Rupa meditation, etc., etc. But here, and this is a completely transcendental method known as Kaivalya Panta. It is non-different from the Supreme Lord. So this generally this process is followed by the devotees of two stages, sadhya and sadhana. The devotees, those who are in the practice in the attainment of love of Godhead, also follow this process. Again, those who are perfected, those who have already achieved the stage of bhava and prema, also follow the same process. The process is same, both in the stage of practice and in perfection. Surely the process is one, but naturally the quality of the practice may differ. The devotees who are in the stage of perfection, they may follow this same process with real ecstasy. In the stage of sadhana, the sadhaka devotees may follow the same process with little mixture of modes of material nature. So naturally, devotees who have attained the stage of bhava and prema also follow the same process. Sometimes those devotees who are in the stage of bhava and prema come down to the stage of sadhana bhakti in order to give their association to the neophyte devotees, so that they can also make tangible progress in the process of devotion. So naturally, the main point is that the process of Ananya Bhakti is non-different from the Supreme Lord. So naturally, it is known as Kaivalya Pandaha. Para avaranam parama aste Kaivalya Samjaha. So this is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the first understanding. Fine. Saunaho Vacha. Idi abhyavhritam raja nishamya bardarshabha kim anyat prashtavan bhuyo vayyasakim rasim kavim.
Yeah. Translation. Sunaka said, the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, was a highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. What did Maharaj Parikshit again inquire from him after hearing all that he had said? A pure devotee of our Lord automatically develops all godly qualities, and some of the prominent feature of those qualities are as follow. He is kind, peaceful, truthful, equable, faultless, magnanimous, mild, clean, non-possessive, a well-wisher to all, satisfied, surrendered to Krishna, without hankering, simple, fixed, self-controlled, a balance eater, sane, mannerly, prideless, grave, sympathetic, friendly, poetic, expert, and silent. Out of this 26 prominent feature of a devotee, as described by Krishnadas Kaviraj in his Chaitanya Charitamrita, the qualification of being poetic is specially mentioned here in the relation of Sukadeva Goswami. The presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam by his recitation is the highest poetic contribution. He was a self-realized learned sage. In other words, he was a poet amongst the sages. Hare
Fine. So Sukadeva Goswami was a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. He was a highly learned sage. Idi Abhyavahridam Raja Nishamya Bharadarshabha. He was the son of Vyasadeva. Vaiyashaki is a Kavi, Rishim Kavi. He was a great Rishi also, he was a great poet also. Amongst the 26 qualities of this pure devotee, one of the main important quality of the devotee is known as Kavi, poetry. So naturally, the sages of Naimisaranya, headed by Saunaha, were so much interested in understanding, in hearing what was discussed in between. Vyasadeva, the son of Vyasadeva, Sukadeva Goswami, and Maharaj Pariksit. So they asked, now Maharaj Pariksit got the answer for the primary questions asked by himself, but at the same time, what Sukadeva spoke more. So they wanted to understand that subject matter also. So before that, the sages spoke so many philosophical aspects of Bhagavata Tattva also, that we will hear in this particular chapter. Sloka number 14. Yetat susrusadam vidvan sudano arkasi basidam katahari katodarkaha sadam shiv sadasya dhruvam.
Translation. O Lord Sud Goswami,
Uh,
please continue to explain such topics to us because we are eager to hear. Besides that topics which result in discussion of the Lord Hari should certainly be discussed in the assembly of devotees. Purport. As we have already quoted above from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami, even mundane things, if dovetailed in the service of Lord Shri Krishna, are accepted as transcendental. For example, the epics or the histories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are specifically recommended for the less intelligent classes, women, Shudra, and unworthy sons of highest caste, are also accepted as Vedic literature because they are compiled in connection with the activities of the Lord. Mahabharata is accepted as the fifth division of the Vedas after its first four divisions, namely Sam, Yajur, Rig, Artha. The less intelligent do not accept Mahabharata as part of the Vedas, but great sages and the authorities accept it as the fifth division of the Vedas. Bhagavad Gita is also part of the Mahabharata, and it is full of the Lord's instruction for the less intelligent class of men. Some less intelligent men say that Bhagavad Gita is not meant for householders, but such foolish men forget that the Bhagavad Gita was explained to Arjuna, a Grasta family man, and spoken by the Lord in his role as a Grasta. So Bhagavad Gita, although containing the high philosophy of the Vedic wisdom, is for the beginners in the transcendental science, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is for the graduate and postgraduates in the transcendental science. Therefore, literature like Mahabharata, the Purana, and similar literature, which are full of the pastimes of the Lord, are all transcendental literature, and they should be discussed with a full confidence in the society of great devotees. The difficulty is that such literature literatures, when discussed by the professional man, appear to be mundane literature like histories or epics because there are so many historical facts and figures. It is said here, therefore, that such literature should be discussed in the assembly of devotees. Unless they are discussed by the devotees, such literature cannot be relished by the higher class of men. Higher class of men. So conclusion is that Lord is not impersonal in the ultimate issue. He is the supreme person and he has the different activities. He is the leader of all living entities and he descends at his will and by his personal energy to reclaim the fallen souls. Thus, he plays exactly like the social, political, religious leader because such roles ultimately culminate in the discussion of the topic of the Lord. All such preliminary topics are also transcendental. That is the way of spiritualizing the civic activities of human society. Men have inclination for studying history and many other mundane literature, stories, fiction, drama, magazine, newspaper, etc. So let them be dovetailed with the transcendental service of the Lord, and all of them will turn to the topics relished by all the devotees. The propaganda that the Lord is impersonal, that he has no activity, and that he is a dumb stone without any name and form has encouraged people to become godless, faithless demon. And the more they deviate from the transcendental activities of the Lord, the more they become accustomed to mundane activities that only clear their path to hell instead of return them home back to Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam begins from the history of the Pandavas with the necessary politics and social activities, and yet Srimad Bhagavatam is said to be Paramhamsa Samhita or Vedic literature meant for the topmost transcendentalists, and it describes Param Jnanam, the highest transcendent knowledge. Pure devotees of the Lord are all Paramhansa, and they are like the swan who knows the art of sucking milk out of a mixture of milk and water. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, bro. Hare Krishna. So here, in the first of all, in the sloka number 12, today we discussed that the process of devotional service is non-different from the Supreme Lord, Kaivalya Panda. Then the sages of Naimisaranya expressed more desire to hear more about the topics discussed in between Sukadeva Goswami and Parishit Maharaj. So here, they express one opinion that even the mundane topics, when they get connected with the discussion of Lord Hari, should be considered as transcendental topics. Basically, the name, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are completely transcendental. But at the same time, any topic which plays the role of a fundamental, which makes a fundamental platform for the discussion of the name, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, any topic which helps to understand that ultimate Asraya Tattva should be understood also transcendental when it is spoken in connection with that ultimate Asraya Tattva. Like Srimad Bhagavatam has 10 different subject matters. Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Manvandra, Ishanakada, Mukti, Asraya. The Asraya Tattva, that is the ultimate essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, that gives detailed descriptions about the pastimes and the qualities of the Supreme Lord. But at the same time, all other topics explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, the topics of creation, primary creation, secondary creation, should be also considered as transcendental because they are explained in the different episodes of Srimad Bhagavatam, so that the reader can have a good understanding about the ultimate Asraya Tattva. We say whole Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental, not just 10 kind of Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental. Correct? Srimad Bhagavatam Amalam Puranam. Because all other topics are explained in connection with the Asraya Tattva, explained in the 10 kind of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada here actually writes about Ramayana, Mahabharata, especially Mahabharata also. Mahabharata, has so many subject matters of mundane nature, but it should be also considered as transcendental, because all the things are explained in relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Another thing is the advantage is there. One advantage of these great literatures is that people has the propensity to hear mundane subject matters. So naturally, if they hear Ramayana, Mahabharata, their interest is nowadays. Prabhupada notes on the Prabhupada has expressed. Prabhupada here. Prabhupada has explained about his perspective or his observation about the modern human culture, also human society. In the modern day human society, people are so much interested in reading mundane stories, fiction stories, dramas, magazine, newspapers, etc., etc. If people's such interests are dovetailed in reading Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Srimad Bhagavatam, they will surely get the spiritual benefit. So that is the thing. So that is the reason. For example, Srila Prabhupada gives the example that here, practically speaking, in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, basically many subjects are discussed, but that subjects are discussed. Why? Because all that subjects are basically some primary subjects, which gradually led the reader to the situation in which two Paramahamsas came and met together for hearing and discussing this great transcendental literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. That's whole first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. What is the life history of Maharaj Parikshit? What is the life history of Sukadev? Why both of them left everything and came to the bank of Ganges and discussed Srimad Bhagavatam. That is also needed, because gradually all these different subject matters, they take the reader to the point of discussing about the name, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So mundane subject matters, when they get dovetailed with the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, should be also considered as transcendental subject matters. That's the point. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yugdam Vairagyam Uchyade. Matter dovetailed in the service of Krishna becomes spiritual. One sentence in this record is very important. Nacha Sarga Visarga Manmandra Nana Rajadi Kadanam Abhi Krishna Kadayam Eva Paryavasistvar Ta Abhi Sravanadi Vishayaha Idi Bhavaha. The point is that Vishwanath Chakravarti Sadhu says that subject matters in relation to creation, primary creation, secondary creation, and different topics and topics happened during the time duration of Manvandara also, when they are explained in relation with the Krishna Kada, should be considered as transcendental. That's the important thing. Fine. Sa Vaibhava Rajo Pandaveyo Maharadaka Bala Kredan, I hate Kredan, Krishna Kredam Alade.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Translation. Maharaj Parikshit, the grandson of the Pandavas, was from his very childhood a great devotee of the Lord. Even while playing with dolls, he used to worship Lord Krishna by imitating the worship of the family deity. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 6.41, it is stated that even a person who has failed in the proper discharge of yoga practice is given a chance to take birth in the house of devout brahmanas or in the houses of rich men like Kshatriya kings or rich merchants. But Maharaj Parikshit was more than that, because he had been a great devotee of the Lord since his previous birth, and as such he took his birth in an imperial family of the Gurus, and especially that of the Pandavas. So from the very beginning of his childhood, he had the chance to know intimately the devotional service of Lord Krishna in his own family. The Pandavas, all being devotees of the Lord, certainly venerated family deities in the royal palace for worship. Children who appear in such families, fortunately, generally imitate such worship of the deities, even the way of childhood play. By the grace of Lord Sri Krishna, we had chance of being born in a Vaishnava family, and in our childhood we imitated the worship of Lord Krishna by imitating our father. Our father encouraged us in all respects to observe all functions such as the Ratha Yatra and Dola Yatra ceremonies, and he used to spend money liberally for distributing prasada to us children and our friends. Our spiritual master, who also took his birth in a Vaishnava family, got all inspiration from his great Vaishnava father, Thakura Bhakti Vinoda. That is the way of all lucky Vaishnava families. The celebrated Mirabai was a staunch devotee of the Lord Krishna as a great lifter of Govardhan hill. The life history of many such devotees is almost the same because there is always symmetry between the early lives of all great devotees of the Lord. According to Jiva Goswami, Maharaj Parikshit must have heard about the childhood pastime of Lord Krishna at Vrindavan, for he used to imitate the pastime with his young playmates. According to Sridhara Swami, Maharaj Parikshit used to imitate the worship of the family deity by elderly members. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti also confirmed the viewpoint of Jiva Goswami. So, accepting either of them, Maharaj Parikshit was naturally inclined to Lord Krishna from his very childhood. He might have imitated either of the above mentioned activities, and all of them established his great devotion from his very childhood, a symptom of a Mahabhagavata. Such Mahabhagavatas are called Nityasiddhas or souls liberated from birth. But there are also others who may not be liberated from birth, but who develop a tendency for devotional service by association, and they are called sadhanasiddhas. There is no difference between the two in the ultimate issue, and so the conclusion is that everyone can become a sadhanasiddha, a devotee of the Lord, simply by association with the pure devotees. The concrete example is our great spiritual master Sri Narada Muni. In his previous life, he was simply a boy of maidservant, but through association with great devotees, he became a devotee of the Lord of his own standard, unique in the history of devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Thanks, Mataji. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here, Maharaj Parisit, the glories of Maharaj Parisit is explained in this particular verse. He is a hearer of Srimad Bhagavatam. The sages of Naimisaranya glorify the glories of Maharaj Parisit. Saha, he, why, certainly, is a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This king, Maharaj Parisit, Raja is adjective. Bhagavata was a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So just one example is given. He was a Maharatha, he was a great fighter. When he was a child itself, Bala Kridangai Kridan, Krishna Kridam Adade, he played with dolls in the form of Krishna. He used to worship Krishna when he was playing with dolls itself. So Prabhupada writes about that great culture of the royal devotee families. That's the main point. Traditionally in India, maybe throughout the whole world, we heard royal Kshatriya families. Generally, the Indian royal Kshatriya families are the devotees, are generally the devotees of Krishna or Lord Rama. So naturally, the elderly family members, they created such an atmosphere in which the children of their family can imbibe the culture of worship of devotion of Lord Sri Krishna or Rama. So generally, the eternal liberated souls of the Supreme Lord, when they descend within this material world, they are allowed to take birth in such a highly elevated families. So naturally here, Parisit took birth in the family of Pandavas. They are all great devotees. So naturally, he got a chance to play with the deities of Krishna when he was a small boy itself. So Prabhupada speaks about his early life also. His father helped him in his worship of Lord Jagannath, and Srila Prabhupada, with the help of his father, when he was a young boy itself, conducted Ratha Yatra along with his family friends, boyfriends, etc. Srila Prabhupada notes from the lifestyle of his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj also. So Srila Prabhupada says that he quotes from, of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti that Parisit Maharaj imbibed this idea of playing with the dolls of Lord Sri Krishna from his father. Then not only Mahabhagavata, sometimes Nityasiddhas also by the association of Nidya Siddhas, Sadhana Siddhas also, by associating with Nidya Siddhas, develop this tendency of pure devotion. So the example is given Narada Muni. Narada Muni was a Sadhaka Siddha. In the beginning, he was just a son of a maid servant. But by associating with the great devotees who happened to visit his village, he also became greatly elevated devotee or perfected devotee in the same birth itself. So what happens here? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also confirms the viewpoint of Jiva Goswami. According to Sridhar Swami, Srila Prabhupada quotes Jiva Goswami here actually. According to Jiva Goswami, Maharaj Parikshit must have heard about the childhood pastimes of Krishna, Lord Vrindavan, when he used to imitate the pastimes of Vrindavan. So here also same thing is said here. Yaya Sri Krishnasya Vrindavana Adav Balakrida Srudasi Tat Prema Veshena Tatsakyadi Bhavanam Tam Tam Eva Kridam Yakradavanidi Artaha. So when he was a small boy itself, he was given the deity of Lord Sri Krishna. So naturally he used to play with that particular dolls in the mood of a friend. That is the commentary of Jiva Goswami in Kramashandarpa. Sridhar Swami writes, Krishna, little different opinion. Krishna Pujadi Rupam Kridam Yasvi Kradavan. He was engaged in the worship of their family deity, Lord Sri Krishna. Little different version he gives. That's all. Sloka 16. Vayashakiksha Bhagavan Vasudeva Parayanaga Urgaya Gunodaraga Sadam Sirhi Samagame. Yeah.
Translation. Shukdev Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, was also full in transcendental knowledge and was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, son of Vasudeva. So there must have been discussion of Lord Krishna, who was glorified by great philosophers and in the company of great devotees. Purport. The word Satam is very important in this verse. Satam means the pure devotees who have no other desire than to serve the Lord. Only in the association of such devotees are transcendental glories of Lord Krishna properly discussed. It is said by the Lord that his topics are all full of spiritual significance, and once one properly hears about him in the association of the Satam, certainly one senses the great potency and so automatically attains to the devotional stage of life. As already described, Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee of the Lord from his very birth, and so was Shukdev Goswami. Both of them were on the same level. Although it appeared that Maharaj Parikshit was a great king accustomed to royal facilities, whereas Shukdev Goswami was a typical renouncer of the world, so much so that he did not even put a cloth on his body. Superficially, Maharaj Parikshit and Shukdev Goswami might seem to be opposites, but basically they were both unalloyed, pure devotees of the Lord. When such devotees are assembled together, there can be no topics save discussions of the glories of the Lord or Bhakti Yoga. In the Bhagavad Gita also, when there were talks between Lord and his devotee Arjuna, there could not be any topic other than Bhakti Yoga. However, the mundane scholars may speculate on it in their own ways. The use of the word cha after Vayasaki suggests, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, that both Shukdev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit were of the same category, settled long before, although one was playing the part of the master, the other the disciple. Since Lord Krishna is the center of the topics, the word Vasudev Parayana, or devotee of Vasudev, suggests devotee of Lord Krishna, the common aim. Although there were many others who assembled at the place where Maharaj Parikshit was fasting, the natural conclusion is that there were no topic other than glorification of Lord Krishna, because the principal speaker was Shukdev Goswami and the chief audience was Maharaj Parikshit. So Srimad Bhagavatam, as it was spoken and heard by two principal devotees of the Lord, is only for the glorification of the Supreme Lord, the prosperity of Godhead Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So here, it's another opinion of the sages of Naimisaranya. It's a correct opinion, it's a good opinion, authorized opinion, bona fide opinion. In the previous sloka, the glories of Parikshit was explained. He was a great Mahabhagavata, and he used to play with the dolls of Krishna when he was a small child itself. So here, naturally, Vayasakischa Bhagavan. So here the word Cha is added. So naturally, not only not only Parisid, even Sukadev is also a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His glories are explained here. So externally speaking, both are great devotees, but externally their lifestyle is different. One was a great king and another was a great renunciant. But by the arrangement of the Lord, here they came together. So it is predicted that since they came together, both are devotees. Surely they must have discussed only the different topics about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What devotees will discuss when they come together? Manmanabo Madbhakto, Sadam Pasangan Mamavirya Samvido, Bhavandi Gritkrna Rasayana Kataka, Tajjoshanata Sababargavartmani, Sardar Adir Bhakti Anukramashandi. Then again, here today, now just before 2-3 slokas back, Srila Prabhupada quoted sloka from Bhagavad Gita 10:9. Chitta Matkada Prana, Bodayandaka Parasparam, Kadayandacha Mamnityam, Dusyandicha Ramandicha. Devotees are always interested in discussing about topics of Krishna Katha only. So next sloka is very important in relation. In the sloka number here, actually, they said that devotees, when they meet together, otherwise it's the natural quality of the devotees that they spend their whole time in speaking, in discussing about the glories of the Supreme Lord. So in sloka number 17, on the contrary, the nature of the non-devotees are explained. How they waste their time, we will see here. Sloka number 17. Ayurharadi vai pumsha udyan astam cha yannasau tashyarte et kishano nida uttama sloka vartaya. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
No. Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of the life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of all good personality of Godhead. Purport. This verse indirectly confirms the greater importance of utilizing the human form of life to realize our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord by acceleration of this devotional service. Time and tide wait for no man. So the time indicated by the sunrise and sunset will be uselessly wasted if such time is not properly utilized by realizing the identification of the spiritual values. Even a fraction of duration of life wasted cannot be compensated by any amount of gold. Human life is simply awarded to a living entity so that he can realize his spiritual identity and his permanent source of happiness. A living being, especially the human being, is seeking happiness because happiness is the natural situation of the living entity, but he is vainly seeking happiness in the material atmosphere. A living being is constitutionally a spiritual spark of the complete whole. His happiness can be perfectly perceived in spiritual activity. Lord is the complete spirit whole, and his name, form, quality, pastime, entourage, and personality are all identical with him. Once a person comes in contact with any one of the above mentioned energies of the Lord through the proper channel of devotional service, the door to perform is immediately open. Door to perfection is immediately open. In Bhagavad Gita 2:40, Lord has explained such contact in the following words. Endeavors in devotional service are never baffled, nor is there failure. A slight beginning of such activity is sufficient even to deliver a person from the great ocean of material fear. As a highly potent drug injected intravenously acts at once in the whole body, the transcendental topics of the Lord injected through the ear of the pure devotee of the Lord can act very efficiently. Okay. Oral realization of the transcendental messages implies total realization, just as fructifications of one part of a tree implies fructification of all other parts. This realization for the moment in the association of the pure devotees like Sukadeva Goswami prepares one's complete life for eternity. Thus, the sun fails to rob the pure devotee of his duration of life, in as much as he is constantly busy in the devotional service of the Lord, purifying his existence. Death is a symptom of the material infection of the eternal living being. Only due to the material infection is the eternal living being subject to the law of birth, death, old age, and disease. The materialistic way of pious activities like charity is recommended in the Smriti Shastras as quoted by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Money given in charity to a suitable person is guaranteed bank balance in the next life. Such charity is recommended to be given to a Brahmana. If the money is given in charity to a non-Brahmana without Brahmanical qualification, the money is returned in the next life in the same proportion. If it is given in charity to a half-educated Brahmana, even then the money is returned double. If the money is given in charity to a learned and fully qualified Brahmana, the money is returned 100 and 1,000 times. If the money is given to a Veda Paraga, one who has factually realized the path of Vedas, it is returned by the ultimately multiplication. The ultimate end of Vedic knowledge is realization of the personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna, I stated in Bhagavad Gita, Vedasya Sarve Rama Vibhuddha. There is a guarantee of the money is being returned if given in charity, regardless of the proportion. Similarly, a moment past association of a pure devotee by hearing and chanting the transcendental mission of the Lord is a perfect guarantee for eternal life, for returning home back to Godhead. Madhama gatta punarjanma navidyate. In other words, a devotee of the Lord is guaranteed eternal life. A devotee's old age and disease in the present life is but an impetus to such guaranteed eternal life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah. So it's a comparison in sloka number 16. The lifestyle of a devotee, the lifestyle of pure devotees are explained. They always spend their time in discussing about the name, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On the other hand, non-devotees spend their time in hearing about the mundane topics of this material world. So in this way, non-devotees waste their lifetime. How devotees don't waste their lifetime? Non-devotees waste their lifetime because this human form of life is meant for reviving our eternal relationship with the Supreme God. As a Jiva, we all are eternal. So we have our eternal life in the eternal spiritual platform in our relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This human form of life is a chance for reviving that particular relationship. Non-devotees don't use that particular chance properly. They spend their time in hearing the name, form, and activities of this material world. So in this way, they waste their time. So sun rises and every day it sets also. So we have limited amount of time in our daytime. So if you don't use it in hearing, in the process of hearing the name, form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, practically speaking, the sun takes away our time, it robs our time, it steals our time, which is in our hand. So Srila Prabhupada speaks about the potency of Krishna Gada. Just as a highly potent drug injected, surely it will act the same way if we hear Krishna Gada from the mouth of a pure devotee, knowingly or unknowingly, it will act one day. Surely it will act. If the receiver is pure, it will act immediately. Then surely it will give the fruit of prema in course of time. Then Srila Prabhupada speaks about the method of charity. If you invest money and time is always comparison can be made. Both are like same thing. If we invest money in certain thing, we get money in return in different proportion. In the same way, if we invest our time in different activities, we will get different results in different proportion. So naturally, if you donate money to a Brahmana, samam abrahmane danam, dai dubigunam brahmane bruve, adide satasagasram, anandam vada parage. So if we donate to a Brahmana, non-Brahmana, the money is returned in the same proportion. If you donate the money to a half-educated Brahmana, it is double duvigunam. And if you donate the money to a Vaishnava, it will result in unlimited amount of result. So in the same way, the understanding is that if we invest our time in hearing about the name, form, pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that will give unlimited amount of result. That will guarantee our entrance into eternal life. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatpadaga tekva deham punarjanma naidimami so Arjuna. We will not come back here at all. We will enter our eternal life. Then the final line is very important. But those devotees who are completely engaged in the process of hearing and chanting also experience the so-called miseries of this material world, like the karmis. So the karmis may say that what kind of benefit you all are receiving? But the birth, death, old age, and disease inflicted upon the devotee, it is done for different purpose. It is done to give more impetus for the devotee to take up the process of Sravanam and Kirtanam in a very serious way. Fine. So naturally, the only whole engagement of the devotees would be Sravanam and Kirtanam, nothing else. So naturally, the question is asked, how I will maintain myself? I have to build a home, I should collect enough money, save enough money for my future expenses, for the weddings of my daughter, for the education of my son. In the modern day society, all these different kinds of needs are there. But generally speaking, at least for brahmacharis and sannyasis, a very simple life is recommended here by the sages of Naimisaranya. Of course, very simple life. Even brahmacharis and sannyasis don't follow this nowadays. But at the same time, we can capture some idea by hearing these slokas. Sloka number 18. Yes, Prabhu.
So, Guruji, if a devotee does some charity, then does he have to take one more birth to receive the results of that charity? Then it's a...
that is my understanding. That particular sloka is quoted by Vishnu Chagothakar in his purport, Prabhupada from Sarartha Darsani. In my understanding, that is quoted for making the understanding that we should invest our time properly in the process of Sravanam and Kirtanam. Because that example is given to make ourselves to understand. If we invest our time in the process of Karma Kanda, we will get certain result. If we invest our time in the Jnana Kanda, we will get certain result. But if we invest our time in the process of Ananya Bhakti, we will get unlimited benefit. That's the understanding. Money matter, leave it. That's a general sloka quoted actually. Instead, take
but here for the Vaishnava, the charity to the Vaishnava is not written. Only charity to the Brahmana and the non-Brahmana and the materialistic person.
Yeah. But at the same time, this whole sloka is quoted to make ourselves to understand how investment of our time in devotional service gives us ourselves eternal life. That is the most important thing that we have to understand. One who factually path of is written, and if the money is given to Veda Paraga means Vaishnavas, devotees, those who have understood the ultimate purpose of Vedas.
So, how do we support the brahmacharis or sannyasi Maharaj who may visit us? Then we try to do some Lakshmi contribution. So, how is that?
That also can be taken into consideration regarding that. If you invest your money by donating to some needed brahmacharis and sannyasis, then also you are guaranteed eternal life. That is also there. That is also there. That point is also there. But money investment and time investment are synonyms. We have to invest our time also properly in a bona fide process. That's the most important thing. Actually, in material life, and just like we work in multinational companies and earn so much of money. Actually, what we do, we invest our time and energy in the activities of the multinational company. What is the result? Then we get money, correct? That is the result. But if you invest your time in the activities of ISKCON, especially in attending classes like that, then the result is permanent. The result is permanent. Correct? That's the import of the verse. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatpataha tekpa dekam punarjanma naidima ediso. That's the thing. Yeah.
Prabhuji, one last thing. So in general,
yes,
should we stay away from charity? I mean, outside of ISKCON, should we stay away? What is the recommendation?
As much as possible, we should avoid giving charity to the charitable so-called institutions, different institutions of India, because they will spend your money generally in public welfare activities, giving kapada, then giving notebooks to the poor children, or nowadays the government itself has become so foolish. Actually these all are the activities which should be done by Kshatriyas actually. But since we don't have Kshatriyas on modern day, there are so many so-called materialistic welfare institutions are there in the modern day society. Besides, we see nowadays election is going on in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, then all the different states of India. We can see it's so foolish actually. And in order to win over the votes of the common people, they make announcement of many free schemes, correct? We will donate laptops, then we will give free cell phones to the Matajis, then free bus tickets in the government transport services, like that. So sincerely, we should not donate to anybody at all, except devotees. But sometimes in beggars in the street, they may harass you. So just to make them peaceful, we may donate some small amount of money. Generally, better not to donate to anybody, except ISKCON. It's a good policy. It's a good policy. Correct or not? What spiritual benefit we will get by donating to somebody else, correct? Surely we will not get any benefit. Even among spiritual institutions. Yes, bro.
I'm sorry to intervene. Prabhuji, when we visit Vrindavan and Govardhan, and we saw a lot of, people are there, and seeing our consciousness like they are Brajvasi and we should give something to them.
We can
Is
give
it
them
right
something.
way?
No doubt. We can give them something. No doubt. That's what I said. Some bona fide sadhus roaming the state, we can give them something. But at the same time, better give to ISKCON, because some sadhus are good who are roaming in the streets of Vrajabhumi. Sure, in Vrajabhumi, it's okay. In Vrindavan, no, all are really connected with Krishna directly. But I am speaking about so many sadhus roaming in different parts of India, other parts of India. Some sadhus are good, but surely many we don't know what they are doing actually. But surely one thing is there. ISKCON not only practices the ISKCON practices the path of pure devotion also, and ISKCON is the only institution in the whole universe which preaches the practice of devotion also. So naturally, if you donate some money which will be helpful in our preaching activities, surely we will get so much of benefit. One devotee I know that in our congregation, he from South India, he regularly donates to Tirupati Balaji. But I used to comment him, "Oh, you are doing that? No, it's so foolish. They already have so much of money, and they don't do any preaching activities at all. Of course, it goes to Lord Vishnu, his service, but at the same time, they don't engage the money in preaching service at all. On the other hand, preaching is the most important need of the modern day society. ISKCON is the only institution which does that.
And also money in the other temples, government take that money and distribute it some other places.
Indian governments take that money
Take that money and give to
spends in sinful activities.
some other religious people, because we have seen some videos like this.
It gives to other religious people also, and the government spends the whole money in foolish plans. Just like last month I was traveling in Karnataka from one place to another place, and in the bus, the whole bus is full of Madajis, because the Congress government has announced free tickets for all the Madajis. So to the fullest capacity, only Madajis. Nobody can travel in the bus. And Madajis themselves, they speak why the government is making this kind of announcement. It's completely crowded and we are not able to travel freely. The conductor does not have any duty at all. It's just sitting freely. There's no need to give ticket at all. No need to give ticket at all, actually. Just come. So like that, many foolish schemes. Giving cylinder, giving laptop, giving cell phone. So many free schemes just to win over the votes, nothing else. So naturally, better to donate to ISKCON. We know that the money will be spent only for two purposes: maintenance of ISKCON temples and for prasad distribution, like that, etc. Yes. So next, we have to read 1 minute. Bhakman and Prabhu, given that. Okay. So what is next? We got to read the okay. Now you see, and this simple lifestyle should be followed by devotees for their maintenance. Of course, no need of imitating, but at the same time, we should take up the essence of this particular sloka, especially brahmacharis and sannyasis. Taravaha kimna jivandi, prishtaha kimna swasandi uda, na kadandi na mehandi, kim grame pasavo pare. We can do one thing. We can give a gap of 5 minutes. Then we can continue. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes, Badmani improvement of phone also.
Right, Purush.
Tarabha kimna jivandi, Bastraka kimna swasandi uda, na kadandina mehandi, kim grame pasavo pare.
Translation.
Yes.
Do the tree not live? Do the bellow of the blacksmith not breathe? All around us, do the beasts not eat and discharge semen? Purport. The materialistic man of the modern age will urge that life, or part of it never meant for discussion of theophysical and theological argument. Life is meant for a maximum duration of existence for eating, drinking, sexual intercourse, making, marry, and enjoy life. Modern man wants to live forever by the advancement of the material science, and there are many foolish theories for prolonging life to maximum duration. But the Srimad Bhagavatam affirms that life is not meant for so-called economical development or advancement of materialistic science, for the hedonistic philosophy of eating, meeting, drinking, and merrymaking. Life is solely meant for tapasya, for purifying existence, so that one may enter into eternal life just after the end of the human form of life. The materialistic want to prolong life as much as possible because they want, because they have no information of the next life. They want to get the maximum comforts in the present life because they think conclusively that there is no life after death. This ignorance about the eternity of the living being and the chance of covering in the material world has played havoc in the structure of a modern human society. Consequently, there are many problems multiplied by the various plans of modernized man. The plans of solving the problem of society have only aggravated the troubles, even if it is possible to prolong life more than 100 years. Advancement of human civilization does not necessarily follow. The Bhagavatam says that certain trees live for hundreds and thousands of years. At Vrindavan, there is a tamarin tree. The place is known as
Tamarind tree. Tamarind tree.
tamarind tree. The place is known as Emelitala, which is said to have existence since the time of our Lord Krishna. In the Calcutta Botanical Garden, there is a banana tree said to be older than 500 years, and there are many such trees all over the world. Swami Shankaracharya lived only 32 years, and Lord Chaitanya lived 48 years. Does it mean that the prolonged life is above mentioned trees are more important than Shankara and Chaitanya? Prolonged life without spiritual value is not very important. One may doubt that trees have life because they do not breathe. But modern science, like Boss, have already proven that there is a life in plants. So breathing is no sign of actual life. The Bhagavatam says that the fellow of the blacksmith breathes very soundly, but that does not mean that the bellow has life. The materialistic will urge that life is the tree and life in the man cannot be compared because the tree cannot enjoy life of eating palatable dishes or by enjoying sexual intercourse. In reply to this, the Bhagavatam asks whether other animals like the dog, hog, living in the same village with human being do not eat, enjoy sexual life. The specific utterance of Srimad Bhagavatam is in regard to other animals, means that the person who are simply engaged in planning a better type of animal consisting of eating, breathing, and meeting are also animal in the shape of human being. A society of such foolish animals cannot benefit suffering humanity, for a animal can easily harm another animal but rarely do good. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So why the people of modern day society are generally not interested in spending their time in discussing Krishna Gada, Rama Gada, or topics of Lord Hari? Not only now in the culture of during the time of Vedic culture also, not that everybody is interested in taking part in Krishna Gada. What is the nature of the materialistic people? Because they have a different goal. They have not understood the goal of human form of life at all. The goal of human form of life is to understand about the absolute Brahman, and one should do tapasya for the realization of the Brahman also. In that way, one can release eternal happiness. On the other hand, they have a complete different perspective about the goal of human form of life. They are more interested in enjoying the senses than understanding spiritual philosophy. But at the same time, so naturally they make so many arrangements for the enjoyment of the senses, construction of big roads, highways, electric trains, bullet trains, etc., etc. In row, they make big arrangement for the enjoyment of the senses, but they don't understand the basic philosophy that their level of enjoyment is in par with the level of enjoyment of the animals, dogs and hogs, that they don't understand. So naturally, human beings are nowadays so much interested in prolonging their life for enjoying more sense gratification, but it is worthless. Srila Prabhupada gives a beautiful example. Sankaracharya only lived for 32 years. Sriman Mahaprabhu lived only for 48 years. But their lives are more important than the lives of the so-called developed materialistic person of the modern day society. So Srila Prabhupada finally ends with the important words that the people of the modern day society can be called as polished animals. They can only create more problems for his neighbor, another human being. They can never benefit the suffering humanity at all. Very important thing. Sloka number 19. Sobit arhostra karai samsudaka purushaka pasu nayat karna pato pedo jadunama gadagrajaha. You can read some only 2 paragraphs, huge purport.
Translation: Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise those men who never listen to transcendental pastime of Lord Shri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. Purport: the general mass of people, unless they are trained systematically for a higher standard of life in spiritual values, are no better than animals, and in this verse they have particularly been put on the level of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Modern university education practically prepare one to acquire a doggish mentality with which to accept the service of a greater master. After finishing a so-called education, the so-called educated person move like dogs from door to door with application for some service, and mostly they are driven away, informed of no vacancy. As dogs are negligible animal and serve the master faithfully for the bits of bread, a man serves a master faithfully without sufficient reward. Persons who have no discrimination in matter of foodstuff and who eat all sorts of rubbish are compared to hogs. Hogs are very much attached to eating stool. So stool is kind of a foodstuff for a particular type of animal. And even stones are eatable for a particular type of animal or bird. But a human being is not meant for eating everything and anything. He is meant to eat grain, vegetable, fruits, milk, sugar, etc. Animal food is not meant for human being. For chewing solid food, human being has a particular type of teeth meant for cutting fruits and vegetables. The human being is endowed with 2 canine teeth as a concession for a person who will eat animal food at any cost. It is known to everyone that one man's food is another man's poison. Human beings are expected to accept the remnants of food offered to Lord Shri Krishna, and the Lord accept foodstuff from the categories of leaves, flowers, fruits, etc. Bhagavad Gita 9.26. As prescribed by the Vedic scripture, no element food is offered to Lord. Therefore, a human being is meant to eat a particular type of food. It should not imitate the animals to drive so-called vitamins value. Therefore, a person who has no discrimination in regard to eating is compared to a hog.
Thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So this is this sloka is a continuation of the sloka number 18. These are the characteristics of the common materialistic person. This kind of people existed in the time of Vedic culture also. Surely they are great in number in the modern day culture, modern day so-called advanced culture. They are not interested in spiritual values. So naturally they lead a life of polished animals. So their lifestyle is explained here. They study something, then they go for job, they move here and there, door to door. They don't get enough job opportunities also. Their life is almost like the life of dogs, especially in big cities like Chennai, Calcutta, and Bombay. You can see the horrible life condition of a common man going here and there, living in filthy places. In Chennai, really, habited by mosquitoes and so many bad things. They don't have fresh air to breathe at all. But people are satisfied in such atmosphere because their only interest is money and sense gratification. Generally, they are interested in eating meat also. They are not satisfied with vegetarian food. They give so many arguments in that regard. But Krishna clearly says in Bhagavad Gita, Patram Puspam Palam Doyam. Their life is compared to the life of camel and ass. A camel takes pleasure in eating thorns mixed along with its own blood. In the same way, they release sexual enjoyment without the understanding that they waste their own human blood in the enjoyment of men and women mutual sexual happiness. That pressure should be only used for the purpose of production of good Krishna conscious children. Otherwise, that sensual pressure should not be used at all in the human form of life. And they are compared to ass also. They unnecessarily work so much hours for the purpose of earning the basic necessities of the human form of life. They don't know the principle that God has arranged our basic necessities. So naturally, their life is compared to hogs and dogs. They don't know this human form of life is so has been achieved after evolving through different species of life. And surely, Govinda Charanatuviyam, Varahanam Anastattavi Abaladam Jadaha, Desham Atma Bhimanina, Varahanam Anasritya Govinda Charanatuviyam. This human form of life should be used for the purpose of surrendering into the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then further characteristics of criticism is made on the lifestyle of ordinary materialistic people in the sloka number 20 also. Bile Bador Krama Vikramanye Nasmadaka Karna Pudena Russia Vivasati Darure, Dar Grihike Vasuda Na Chopagaya Urgaya Gadaha.
Translation: one who has not listened to the
What paragraph again? Yeah. Go on.
who has not listened to the messages about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead, and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord, is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. Purport: devotional service to the Lord is rendered by all limbs or parts of the body. It is transcendently dynamic force of the spirit soul. Therefore, a devotee is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord. One can engage in devotional service when the senses of the body are purified in relation with the Lord, and one can render service to the Lord with the help of all the senses. As such, the senses and the action of the senses are to be considered impure or materialistic as long as they have employed only in sense gratification. The purified senses are engaged not in sense gratification, but in the service of the Lord in toto. The Lord is in supreme with all senses, and the servitor, who is part and parcel of the Lord, also has the same senses. Service to the Lord is the completely purified use of the senses, as described in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord imparted instructions with full senses, and Arjuna received them with full senses, and thus there was a perfect exchange of sensible and logical understanding between the master and the disciple. Spiritual understanding is nothing like an electrical charge from the master to the disciple, as foolishly exclaimed by some propaganda mongers. Everything is full of sense and logic, and the exchange of use between the master and disciple is possible only when the reception is submissive and real. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one should receive Lord Chaitanya with intellect and full senses so that one can logically understand the great mission. Hare Krishna.
Thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada speaks about personalism so much. Human beings, we have senses. The Lord also have senses. And we should use this in the present condition. Our senses are impure. And if we engage our senses in the purified senses of the Supreme Personality of God, the transcendental senses of the Supreme Lord, we also get purified symbol logic. So naturally, we should engage our senses in hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So naturally, if we don't use our ears in hearing about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they should be considered as the holes of snakes. And if we don't use our tongue in glorifying the name and fame of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, our tongues should be considered as the tongues of a frog. So severe criticism is made on the lifestyle of karmis, ordinary materialistic class of people. Sloka number 21. Baraka parampatta krida justam abhi uttamangam namen mukundam savam karavana kurde saparyam hare lasat kanjana kanganava.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Translation. The upper portion of the body, though crowned with a silk turban, is only a heavy burden if not bowed down before the personality of Godhead, who can award mukti, freedom. And the hands, though decorated with glittering bangles, are like those of a dead man, if not engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead, Hari. Purport. As stated herein before, there are three kinds of devotees of the Lord. The first class devotees does not at all see anyone who is not in the service of the Lord. But the second class devotee makes distinction between devotees and non-devotees. The second class devotees are therefore meant for preaching work, and as referred to in the above verse, they must loudly preach the glories of the Lord. The second class devotee accepts disciples from the section of third class devotees or non-devotees. Sometimes a first class devotee also comes down to the category of the second class devotee for preaching work. But a common man who is expected to become at least a third class devotee is advised herein to visit the temple of the Lord and bow down before the deity, even though he may be a very rich man or even a king with a silk turban or crown. The Lord is the Lord of everyone, including the great kings and emperors, and men who are rich in the estimation of mundane people must therefore make it a point to visit the temple of Lord Sri Krishna and regularly bow down before the deity.
Thanks,
The Lord
Maraji.
in the
Enough, Maraji. I will read Maraji. Yes.
Hare
So
Krishna.
naturally, in the human form of life, everybody is advised to visit the temple and bow down in front of the Lord, especially those who are not conversant with the principles of devotion at all. So naturally, the neophyte person is especially, of course, this instruction is for everybody, especially for a very neophyte person, because in the beginning, one can make relationship with the process of devotional service by visiting temples again and again, by taking darshan of the deities again and again. So one should not get puffed up. One should bow before the deity. In the traditionally, the kings, the Sadriya class of people has a turban. So when they go to the temple, they have to remove their turban. Then they have to become so humble. They have to bow down in front of the deities. So Prabhupada gives the example of the kings of Orissa. They are all great kings, but they used to go to the temples and they used to sweep the temple, especially during the time of Lord Jagannath's Radha Yatra. In the same way, here in South India, we can see that the devotees of deities like Padmanabha in Kerala, it's the richest temple in the whole world, correct? Generally, Vadigan is said to be the richest spiritual community or spiritual church in the whole world. But actually, there are many treasury rooms are there in Padma temple here in Kerala. And many 2-3 rooms cannot be opened at all because they are guarded by mysterious heavenly snakes actually. So otherwise they are locked by, the doors are locked using mantras also. And if you open the door, surely you cannot estimate even the treasure given to the deity of Lord Padmanabh by the kings of Thiruvangur kingdom. So, but still now, the main beautiful good quality of the kings of Thiruvangur kings of Kerala and Tamil Nadu, portion of Tamil Nadu, still the same quality they maintain. They think themselves as the servant of Lord Padmanabha. So whatever they have in their possession, they donate to Lord Padmanabha. They ruled their kingdom also before British came to India on behalf of the Supreme Lord only. So this is a proper consciousness to be maintained by the kings of Vedic culture. They maintained it also. Some mistakes they did, but generally they maintained. Sloka 22. Barkhayirede Nayana Narana Lingana Vishnurna Riksha. I went to Kerala before 1 month for preaching. So I got one good news actually. Many things I heard about Lord Padmanabha. And the present airport where Thiruvananthapuram International Airport operates, the land basically belongs to Lord Padmanabha. Okay. So after the airport, near the sea, inside the sea, the Lord goes to once in a year or twice a year, he goes there for performing some pastimes. Still now, it's a government rule that on that particular day, when the Lord goes there inside the airport should be closed for 3-4 hours. So still the Lord is Lord. He goes inside the airport, and anybody who goes in the procession also can go inside the airport. Everything will be stopped, and he goes the other side of the airport and takes bath in the sea, performs some pastimes there, then come back. I was so happy to hear about that actually. Still he is the Supreme Lord. Then imagine during the time of Vedic culture, he was a real Lord of everything. That culture should be maintained. So sloka number 22. Barkhayide Nayana Narana Lingani Vishnurna Narikshado Ye Padav Nirnamdav Durmajanma Bhajav Kshetrani Nanu Rajado Hareryo.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Translation. The eyes which do not look at the symbolic representation of the personality of Godhead, Vishnu, his form, name, quality, etc., are like those printed on the plumes of the peacock, and the legs which do not move to the holy places where the Lord is remembered are considered to be like the tree trunk. Yes.
Yes, even I can explain the purpose, no problem. So naturally, so what happens here? So our eyes, our hands, and all the parts of our body should be used in the process of pure devotional service. That is a recommendation given here. In India, previously throughout whole world, during the time of Vedic culture, great big temples were established by kings, and in some cases by good pious South India also, in like that. So people used to come in large in number, so they will serve the deities. So that's a good practice. And not only they should visit the temple, and Prabhupada gives the instruction that they should meet the holy people there also. Then gradually they should learn to follow the footsteps of the great devotees also. Anuvrajyaha. Otherwise, as said in the original sloka, Lingani Vishnu Nanirikshado ye Padav Nirnamdav Durmajanma Bhajav. Traditionally, they used to go by walking, correct? Every day they used to go by walking. Long distance they will walk. For going to Tirupati, surely people from the different parts of South India, they will go by walking. In Maharashtra, for seeing the deity of Vittal from different parts of Maharashtra. People used to go by walking. In Gujarat again, for visiting Dwaraka, people used to walk from long distance from different villages of Gujarat. That's a practice everywhere in India. For going to Guruvayur, you have to walk long distance from different parts of Kerala. So that was a practical program in olden days. Beautiful program, Padayatra. So that should be practiced. Otherwise, the legs are considered to be made of tree trunks, useless legs actually. Jivan Shavo Bhagavadang Rirenu Najad Martyo Bilabed Yastu Sri Vishnapatya Manjas Tulashyaha Swasan Shavo Yastuna Vedagandam. Hare Krishna, somebody can
Translation: the person who has not at any time received the dust of the feet of the Lord's pure devotee upon his head is certainly a dead body, and the person who has never experienced the aroma of tulsi leaves from the lotus feet of the Lord is also a dead body, although breathing. Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the breathing dead body is a ghost. When a man dies, he is called dead. But when he again appears in the subtle form, not visible to a present vision, and yet acts, such a dead body is called a ghost. Ghosts are always very bad elements, always creating a fearful situation for others. Similarly, the ghost-like non-devotee who have no respect for the pure devotees nor for the Vishnu deity in the temples create a fearful situation for the devotee at all times. The Lord never accepts any offering by such impure ghosts. There is a common saying that one should first love the dog of the beloved before one shows any loving sentiments for the beloved. The stage of pure devotion is attained by sincerely serving a pure devotee of the Lord. The first condition of devotional service to the Lord is therefore to be a servant of a pure devotee, and this condition is fulfilled by the statement, reception of dust of lotus feet of a pure devotee who has also served another pure devotee. That is the way of pure distributed succession or devotional parampara.
Thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So it's a very important thing. Nobody can breathe in a dead body. So naturally, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's specific usage of language means a ghost. Huh? What is the use of the breathing of a ghost? It also breathes. So in the same way, if one does not use this human form of body, not only serving the Lord, here the specific instruction is given, Sri Vishnu Patya Manujas Tulashyaha. If somebody does not serve a devotee who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, he should be considered as a ghost or a person who breathes in the dead body. So naturally here, so much importance is given. It's a very important instruction is given. Not only we should be interested in serving the Lord, we should be more interested in serving his devotees actually. So Srila Prabhupada quotes the most important sloka in this record from the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th chapter, 12th canto.
हाँ जी हाँ जी अच्छा कितना लोग होंगे आपका फैमिली टोटल
प्रभु थोड़ा वो बंद करना प्रभु वो आपका yeah. So Prabhupada quotes the most important sloka.
कॉन्फर्म करके मुझे बताना मैं भी 10-12 लोग होंगे
प्रभु थोड़ा म्यूट करना प्रभु हरे कृष्णा
जय केशव प्रभु
थोड़ा म्यूट करना प्रभु
I muted Prabhu, I muted.
Yeah, thanks Prabhu. So Prabhupada gives the important sloka from the conversation between Maharaja Raghugana and Jadabharata. Raghugana dait tapassanayati na sa ijjaya nirvapanat grahava na chandasa naiva jalaki surye vina mahat padarjo abhisekam. So nobody can get 100% success in the process of pure devotional service unless otherwise he has taken the shelter of the lotus feet of a one devotee. Otherwise, analogically speaking, smearing his head with the dust of the lotus feet of the devotee. It can be taken in both way, literally and generic sense also. One should do physically also that one should smear the lotus feet of his spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, etc. But it means more than that, is that one should take shelter of the instruction of his spiritual master and follow the instruction of his spiritual master. So nobody can become successful just by following just by executing different tapasyas in the process of spiritual life, or just by the performance of different pujas, or just by following, reading different Vedic literatures, etc., etc. Surely, everybody should follow this particular process of taking shelter of the lotus feet of a devotee. It means following the instruction of a devotee, specifically. Sloka 24. That asma saranam. Srila Prabhupada quotes another important sloka quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Ultimately, we all are not devotees of Krishna. We are devotees of Krishna. Gopi Pratapada Kamalayor Dasa Dasanu Dasaha. Sloka 24. That tasmasaram hridayam vadedam yat grahyamanir harinama deyai na vikriyedada yata vikaro netre jalam gatra rugesha harshaha.
Translation: certainly that heart is steel framed, which, in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and the hairs stand on end. Purport: we should note with profit that in the first 3 chapters of the second canto, a gradual process of development of devotional service is being presented. In the first chapter, the first step in devotional service for God consciousness, the process of hearing and chanting, has been stressed, and a gross conception of the personality of Godhead in his universal form for the beginners is recommended. By such a gross conception of God through the material manifestations of his energy, one is unable to spiritualize the mind and the senses and gradually concentrate the mind upon Lord Vishnu, the Supreme, who is present as a super soul in every heart and everywhere, in every atom of the material universe. The system of Panch Upasana, recommending 5 mental attitudes for the common man, is also enacted for this purpose, namely gradual development, worship of the superior, that may be in the form of fire, electricity, the sun, the mass of living beings, Lord Shiva, and at last the impersonal super soul, the partial representation of Lord Vishnu. They are all nicely described in the second chapter, but in the third chapter, further development is prescribed after one has actually reached the stage of Vishnu worship, a pure devotional service, and the mature stage of Vishnu worship is suggested herein in relation to the change of heart. The whole process.
Prabhu, stop for some time. We will because so many things are written, so we will go by paragraph to paragraph. So Srila Prabhupada gives a summary of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the first chapter, as we discussed that meditation on the broad form of the Lord, universal form of the Lord was discussed. That recommendation was given generally for the neophyte spiritualists, correct? Then gradually recommendation is given for realization of the super soul. We studied different aspects of Bhakti Misra Yoga Marga. Then the system of Panchopasana is also recommended, Prabhupada says actually. In that one is recommended to meditate on sun, living beings, Shiva, and impersonal super soul, and partial representative of Vishnu. Then gradually the subject matter is developed in such a way that, especially in this particular chapter, the finally Dasmat, from starting from the verse Dasmat, the stress is given for taking up the process of pure devotional service, and especially rendering service by taking Hare Krishna. Second paragraph, Prabhu.
Yeah. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. So with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from the sense of material enjoyment, by a false sense of lording it over the world, and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. Vidhi Bhakti, or regulated devotional service for the limbs of the body, namely the eyes, the ears, the nose, and the hands and the legs, as already explained here in before, is now stressed here in relation to the mind, which is the impetus for all activities of the limbs of the body. It is expected by all means that when discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. If there is no such change, the heart must be considered steel framed, for it is not melted even when there is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. We must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional devotees. And if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactional ecstasy with the signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. These are natural consequences and the preliminary symptoms of the bhava stage, which occurs before one reaches the professional stage of prema.
Yes, bro. Thanks, Prabhu. So what happens here? So in the previous sloka, we studied that nobody can achieve perfection just by practicing different austerities and exposing himself to the sun, the hot sun, etc. One should of a pure devotee, and one should follow the rules and regulations of Vaidhi Bhakti very nicely. And in the process of chanting, one should try to avoid all the offenses to the holy name of the Supreme Lord. So in the stage of sadhana bhakti, one may chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Surely he cannot experience the ecstasy of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord because he commits different offenses. But once when the offenses are cleared, he reaches the stage of bhava. In that particular stage, he experiences the different ecstasies of bhava. That's what's written in the next paragraph. Then what happens here? Then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes another point also. Surely many devotees have reached the stage of bhava. So naturally, they experience the 8 symptoms of ecstasy experienced in the stage of bhava and prema. But at the same time, many neophyte devotees, pseudo devotees known as Sagajas, Prakrita Sagajas, though they have not reached the stage of bhava, exhibit the external so-called symptoms of bhava. So one should be very careful in that respect also. They are basically neophyte devotees, but they want to get name and fame from his so-called followers, in the sense that that so-called followers think themselves as they have reached the stage of bhava. They have not reached the stage of bhava. So externally, they show the symptoms of bhava. So how we can understand that they have not reached the stage of bhava? Because they show the symptoms of bhava, but when we are able to understand that still they are addicted to the basic sinful activities like smoking, drinking, illegitimate sexual contacts with women, etc., etc. So naturally, another thing is that the genuine devotees who have reached the stage of bhava, they will not show the symptoms of bhava often also. So Prabhupada gives a very beautiful example in this regard. In the meeting of Ramananda Rai and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu happened on the bank of river Godavari in Andhra Pradesh. So as soon as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Ramananda Rai, he became so happy, and both of them, especially Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, started showing the symptoms of ecstasy. But there, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was able to see the presence of so many caste brahmanas or karmakanda brahmanas. So naturally, that karmakanda brahmanas, they were thinking, he is this Ramananda Rai belongs to basic Satriya group of family or Sudra family. Why this sannyasi becomes so happy by meeting an ordinary Sudra? So they started committing aparad, mental aparad. Naturally, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped expressing all his symptoms of bhava. The thing is that those who have genuinely reached the stage of bhava may not show the symptoms of bhava always also. Prabhupada rarely showed that. But we can understand that they have reached the stage of bhava by seeing by the way they display some other characteristics. What are the important characteristics they saw? They are free from material desire, Shanti, Avyartha Kalatvam. They use each and every second of their life in the process of pure devotional service. They have developed a great taste for chanting the name form of the Supreme Lord. They have a great desire to live in the holy places like Vrindavan, and they are completely detached from material happiness, Virakti. They are so humble, Manasunyara. So from this characteristic, we can understand this particular devotee has developed the stage of Bhava, because they are so humble. They will not show Bhava each and every time. So this is a thing. So I will, before 25 is the last sloka. Before that, I will recount one Srila Prabhupada's pastimes in this regard. Srila Prabhupada, when he was chanting before Srimad Bhagavatam class, his favorite devotional song, Jai Radha Madhava, both here in Mayapur also. Now I am giving these classes from Mayapur. And in another place in North India, Gorakhpur also, he went to ecstasy. But later on, devotees started chanting Hare Krishna. Then he came to external consciousness. But he asked for forgiveness. So naturally, the devotees who are in the stage of Bhava and Prema, they don't show their symptoms of Bhava and Prema in front of the neophyte sadhaka devotees at all. They only Prakrita Sakanyas are so much interested in showing Bhava, symptoms of Bhava. Genuine devotees are not so much interested at all. On the other hand, we should understand that by understanding these all 6 characteristics in the way they render devotional service. Okay, fine. Last sloka. Adabhi derhi angamano anugulam. Then prabhashe bhahavata pradhanaha yattaha vayyasakir atmavidya visharado nurupadim sadhu prashtaha. Yes. Hare Krishna.
O
Hare
Suta
Krishna,
Goswami,
Prabhu. Okay. Okay, Prabhuji, Sadhu Gauram Prabhu. Okay, first.
O Suta Goswami, your words are pleasing to our minds. Please therefore explain this to us as it was spoken by the great devotee Sukadeva Goswami, who is very expert in transcendental knowledge and who spoke to Maharaj Parikshit upon being asked purport. Knowledge explained by the previous Acharya like Sukadeva Goswami and followed by the next like Suta Goswami is always powerful transcendental knowledge, and it is therefore penetrating and useful to all the submissive students. Thus, end of the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the second canto, third chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Pure Devotional Service, the change in heart. Hare Krishna.
Change in heart. Because in the beginning, the instruction was given for a neophyte to meditate at the Virat form of the Lord. Then the instruction in regard to Bhakti Misra Yoga for meditation on Super Soul was given. Gradually, the ultimate important instruction is given to take up the process of pure devotional service. That is the reason the title is given, the change in the heart. This is a basic question told by the sages of Naimisaranya. They were interested in hearing more discussion. They were interested in hearing about the discussions which happened afterwards in between Sukadev and Parikshit. But in between, they spoke many slokas which describes the nature of a non-devotee, and severe criticism was made on the behavior of non-devotee. Then finally, they spoke about the characteristics of pure devotees who are in the stage of Bhava also. So in between, they spoke many slokas. So naturally, in the next chapter, they will start asking, in the next chapter, we will see how Maharaj Parikshit asked the question in relation to the creation principles of the Supreme Lord. He asked topics about Sarga, Visarga, etc. He immediately go to the topic of Leela. So because the reason is that in the beginning, one should hear the Lord's Leela in relation to his material energy known as Srishti Leela. Then gradually, once when our heart got purified, one should be more interested in hearing the Ruchira Leela pastimes of the Supreme Lord in relation with his eternal associates. So Parikshit was very systematic, though he was so qualified to hear Krishna Leela directly, and he had only 7 days only in his hand at his disposal. But at the same time, he followed a beautiful method so that neophytes like ourselves will get the gradual benefit, systematic benefit. So he asked the questions about Srishti Leela. So naturally, in the chapter number 4, 5, we will hear the descriptions about Srishti as explained by Maharaj Parikshit. Thank you very much. I have to also go for prasadam. So because of my travel from here to Mayapur to Chennai, next week Saturday, we cancel our classes. So we will meet together in the next Sunday actually, in the same timing. Thank you very much. So Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.